Songwriter Spotlight. We're so happy that you could join us this evening here at the West Tennessee Delta Heritage Center in Brownsville, Tennessee. We're the home of the West Tennessee Music Museum, the last home of bluesman Sleepy John Estes, and of course, the Tina Turner Museum. We're happy that you're here and we hope you'll come visit. In the meantime, I'm Sonia and I am your host for this evening's Songwriter Spotlight. Please help me welcome to the Spotlight, Tony Manard. Tony, thank you for being here this evening. It's great to have you back in Brownsville. Now, I want you to tell me, are you originally from Memphis? And then tell me a little bit about how you got started in music and when you began playing the guitar.
Yes, I was born and raised in Memphis. I have a lot of songs about being from Memphis, but I'm moving to a family place in Ripley, Mississippi right now, so that's kind of my new headquarters. I started when I was about 12, and the earliest recollections I have of anybody playing live music were in the community where I'm moving to now. My grandmother lived down there, and the family's from there, and so whenever there was a crisis, somebody needed something, they'd have a benefit. The Gates Boys Band would play. It was a family band, and Oval Gates played the fiddle. And the first thing I ever remember hearing was the Carroll County Blues. Like if I had to put my finger on, what was the first time I heard somebody actually live playing music? It was Carroll County. It was, you know, that fiddle melody, and so having watched that, and watching the way the ladies like the boys with the guitars, I said, well, I think that may be the thing for me. I'm not going to distinguish myself as a sportsman or a tough guy or anything like that. So,
did you teach yourself or took lessons?
I took some lessons. I started in a continuing education class, like a group guitar class. Then one of those, you get the catalog of little summer classes to put kids in. And so I started off in a group class, and I took some lessons. But I mostly learned from playing with other people. I seek out musicians that are better than me for the very reason I can huff and run and catch up, and I get better. And that's really the way I learn, by a very repetitive process. I just kind of have to keep ramming my head into things. So that kind of works. So and in Memphis, really throughout the South, it's kind of rich with kind of the culture of jamming with each other. Like musicians get together. I know you guys have guitars in the lobby, and I've completely jammed with strangers in this very lobby. So, and that's to me, that's the school. That's where you learn, because it teaches you how to play with other musicians. It teaches you about song structure. You start to learn to predict, and you can take that all back to your writing. So, like I said, that's after you learn the basics, the big thing is if you get out there and you play with other musicians, that's where you get the craft from.
What inspired you to begin writing your own music?
I used to write little parodies of things, but I never shared them with anybody. And I had been asked to fill in playing guitar in a band because I was a guitar player, and I just never thought of myself as being somebody who would be a songwriter. My friend Harry Cottadiziotis, he's got a studio in Memphis, and that's actually where we cut all of our records at. I was filling in playing guitar in his band, going down to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and just had an adventure. And I wrote a funny little song about it, going to Tuscaloosa and seeing all the pretty girls and coming home to the lady and just out having the fun, and somebody having a little too much to drink and having to stick his head out the window of the Cadillac. We had gone on this weekend tour, and here he had this gold Cadillac. His grandmother passed away, and left him this gold '80s Cadillac. And he was, we'd always gone everywhere in his Jeep, but got to ride around in this Cadillac. You could put 5 people and 2 Fender twin amplifiers in the back of this thing, and everybody was comfortable. So we started touring about the Southeast in this gold Cadillac. Anyway, I wrote this little song just completely for fun. Didn't think anything of, because it was like with my little parodies and things, I would just, I was constantly Weird Al-ing other people's songs just for fun. And I only played it once as it came off the top of my head. And I played Harry the song, and he just, kind of got a deep belly laugh, and I was like, well, maybe there's something to this. And I just kind of started doing it, I always thought it was some magic that normal people couldn't touch, but turns out that's not the case at all.
Are you going to share it with us?
Oh no, I've got a lot of new stuff I want to share with you. And having been locked up in the pandemic, a lot of us a lot of us wrote songs, and there's a lot of albums coming out. There's a lot of, a lot of people were able to take some of that time into their art. So a lot of exciting stuff is coming, and a lot of us are just like, man, I'm just raring to get these songs out there and recorded. I usually don't like recording a song until I've played it in front of an audience enough to gauge a reaction, to see if it needs a tune-up, what thing might need to change. You get it out with a band and you find out that, it turns out that thing that you thought was really zippy kind of drags along. And so you kind of have to tool them. So we miss playing out, we miss playing live, because that's where we kind of beat the songs into shape before you try to record them. So it's been interesting playing the songs in a vacuum. So yeah, I've got some new stuff I'd like to share with you guys.
Well, how about sharing your first one with us?
All right. Well, one of the things I noticed with the pandemic was, well, even before the pandemic, was kind of a climate of fear. I'm not going to go into anybody's politics, but just generally a climate of fear and people being, anxiety. There seems to be an undercurrent of rage. I don't get it. I do get it, but I feel like there's always been a factor of the people have been kind of pushed around manipulated by outside forces. There was a movie back in the 90s called Wag the Dog, where they staged a war completely as a media event. There was no actual war. They just made it up just to, kind of inflame people. I don't even remember what their end goal was. So I was thinking about that. So I wrote this song. It's called Imaginary Tales, T-A-I-L-S. So little in this life really matters. It's imaginary tales. Keep the dogs wagging. Keep drinking and your boat keeps sinking. You're taking on water, so you better start bailing. Fed, loved, and financed, still feeling sorry for yourself. Oh, the Lord of Thunder is a one-hit wonder, always taking the easy way out. If they do you wrong, let it slide. If you win the bet, just let it ride. If you get too cold, come inside. Death ain't courting, it ain't important enough to keep you up at night. Read the comments till your head explodes like a cherry bomb flush down a school commode. Everybody's entitled to opinions. The opinions of a stranger don't require your attention. All the shouting and nobody listening, good intentions don't make a bit of difference. Just listen to the voice that's close to you. Everything else is just noise. If they do you wrong, let it slide. If you win the bet, just let it ride. If you get too cold, come inside. The death ain't courting, it ain't important enough to keep you up at night. The world drowns in blue. It don't have to happen to you. Put your phone down, turn the TV off, man. The world's got problems and you can't solve them. Clear your head up, take a walk outside. Call up a friend, maybe go for a drive. Sunshine's free and it ain't half bad. So consider this if you're feeling sad. You're just a drop in the ocean and you're subject to emotion. So try to enjoy the ride. If they do you wrong, let it slide. If you win the bet, just let it ride. If you get too cold, come inside. Death ain't courting, it ain't important enough to keep you up at night. So little in this life really matters. It's imaginary
like your inspiration, at least for the last couple of years, has been largely due to the pandemic.
Definitely. And just kind of the resetting. And maybe, nothing even specific to the pandemic, but just the event of the pause and the resetting. And I think so many people have been re-examining their lives because of that. And, for me, there was a lot of realizing how much importance maybe was put on work that, like the work you do to make a living, that wasn't maybe the best expenditure of energy, and kind of balancing that.
One of the things that I know that you do and I really enjoy is the occasional show called Coffee in the Cadillac. Tell us about that.
I've got a 64 Cadillac in my backyard, and I was, I grew up around cars and fixing up cars, and I started on this thing some years ago. It's drug on, it's stalled, it's gone in fits and starts, but the Cadillac was sitting in the backyard, and I'd gone out to the garage for something. I just opened the door, and it smelled like an old car in there. It's got kind of dark tinted windows from a previous owner. Not factory. And anyway, I get in the car and I close the door, and I'm sitting there. This feels really nice. And one of my kids goes to them. I think my son went into the garage and got something. He came right back out and went into the house and didn't see me. And I was like, this is a hideout. So I took to sitting in there and writing songs in cooler weather. And then I strung some Christmas lights and I put a couple of things around. And so it was kind of a thing. So one morning I just turned the recorder on and got on Facebook on a Saturday morning with my cup of coffee in my hair and going crazy, and just started kind of randomly doing it. Never specifically, always on the weekends, always when I didn't have anything else to do. And when I have a song that kind of fits the venue, certain songs lend themselves to Cadillacs and certain songs don't, the more serious stuff. I try to keep it light in the Cadillac, I try to keep it light all over the place, but yeah, the Volkswagen Man song actually, I've actually done that in the Cadillac. Can we play that one for you?
Sure.
All right, so I have to preface this with, I do know better. I was raised better. But when you're a kid, you do things. We had a family living down the street from us where I grew up, and it was a man and a woman and a couple of kids, and it was one of those houses that was not maybe one of the nicer houses on the street. It was solidly cops and teachers, middle class kind of street. But anyway, and the man had Volkswagens, like several Volkswagens. He was a mechanic, and they were scattered about the yard. And the lady was, this is where I know better and have to preface that I was raised better. She was a rather large woman, and she yelled a lot. So we called them Volkswagen Man and the Fat Lady, which isn't cool. It's not okay to take somebody's humanity from them, and I've written the song in repentance, and many others for many of my faults. But so it was not okay to rob her of her humanity. And then after, of course, I got older, had children, old cars in my yard, yelling at kids, I started to see maybe a little more of their story that I just didn't get as a surly teenager. So I wrote this song for the Volkswagen Man, and we call her Mrs. Wagon now. So that's how we fix that. But this is for the Volkswagen Man. Volkswagen Man drinks just a little. Mrs. Wagon yells a lot. Was it something that he did, or something they ain't got? Couple of barefoot, dirty-faced kids running around the yard. And I often wondered what it was that made their life so hard. Volkswagen Man goes to work every day at 9. Mrs. Wagon stays at home, watching TV, wiping behinds. On the days he comes home late, you can hear him cuss. She was Carmen Gia when they met, but she turned into Love is like a used car, you can't know it till you buy it. It's classified at crapshoot, but you can't win if you don't try it. When it gets a hold of you, ain't no denying. Love is like a used car, you can't know it till you buy it. This wagon has a great big smile for the kids in the neighborhood. The Volkswagen man will fix your bike if you catch him feeling good. One night I saw a scene that confused my teenage head. Well, they was making out on the front porch after they put the kids to bed. 'Cause love is like a used car, buy it. It's classified at crapshoot, but you can't win if you don't try it. When it gets a hold of you, ain't no denying. Love is like a used car, you can't know it till you buy it. That's the kind of thing we do with the Cadillac.
Well, walk me through your songwriting process. You obviously get inspired by numerous things.
I usually just sit and think. Usually when I'm doing something else, some mundane task or some manual labor, a lot of manual labor these days. Note files on my phones with a couple of lines here and there. You come up and think, oh, that's kind of good. You throw it in there. And I do a lot of stripping things for parts. Being a car guy, that's kind of an apt metaphor. So you write a lot of these things in a note somewhere, a couple of things that rhyme or whatever, and then later on when you've got an idea, like a theme, and you're going somewhere, you have these things to go pull from. And sometimes you write a song all the way through, and it's not a song that maybe takes on a life of its own and sticks around, and you strip it for parts. You'll have a song, you'll have a burst of an idea, and that's the thrilling go chase it down thing. But then there's a lot of days that you were just batting that same idea around because you know that there's a better way to say it, there's a more succinct way to say it, or you get further into the song and realize that something's become redundant. So there's so much back and forth and chopping on them. And I tend to write kind of long-winded and then chop and edit. And that tends to be more of my process. I usually end up with too much on the front end. You just have to be ruthless about it. Because the melody usually seems to come with the words. The words just kind of suggest a melody to me, and then we start beating on it. And if it's a band song, I bring it to the band, and we kind of I bring just the most rudimentary, the chords, the melody, the structure, and I play with people that make their own parts very well, and that's why I play with them. Is because I like the parts they make and like the whole of it. So,
well, let's do one more song, and then we'll come back and talk about the band.
All right. Well, speaking of a process of songwriting, I've not done much co-writing, and I know co-writing is kind of a very popular thing, and it's just like I said, I've had a few opportunities. I've written with Rice Drury is a good friend and a great writer that's played in here before. Luke Fisher out of Oxford, we've written some stuff together. But this song I'm going to play, I wrote with my friend Michael Graber. I don't know if you guys know Michael Graber. He's also a band leader. He has a large eclectic band called Graber Grass. The inspiration for this, my son was moving garden dirt around, and it doesn't sound like very fun work, putting dirt in a wheelbarrow and moving it to beds, but I was watching him out there, and he was actually enjoying himself, and kind of one of those things. And thinking about gardening is something that my wife and I took up during the pandemic, and we're not really good at it, but we really love it. So just kind of taking that whole wanting to grow things as an inspiration for maybe talking to my children about it, because songs let you kind of say things that you just can't put the same words to necessarily, and that's that extra bit that you hope to kind of communicate with that extra dimension. But this is called Seeds, and I wrote this from Michael Graber. Put your hands in the dirt, and everything else just fades away. You will find the words you were looking for, you didn't know what to say. I'd be lying if I said it was easy. That's something that I never want to do to you. What I'm saying won't make sense right now, but every word of it I believe to be true. Think once, dream twice, be wary of the crowd's advice. You got everything you need to make them grow, so just mind the seeds you sow. Wish I could save you from the pain of finding out. Those old ghosts, they will haunt you, they won't stick around. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't messy, and that's something that I never want to do to you. What I'm saying won't make sense right now, but every word of it I believe to be true. Think once, dream twice, be wary of the crowd's advice. You got everything you need to make them grow, so just mind the seeds you sow. You was working on the thing that you was working on yourself. When you pass me on the highway, I hope you see me and I hope you wave. Maybe stop by for a rest, maybe to spend the day. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't folly. That's something that I never want to do to you. What I'm saying won't make sense right now, but every word of it I believe to be true. Think once, dream twice, be wary of the crowd's advice. You got everything you need to make them grow, so just mind the seeds you sow. Oh, mind the seeds you sow. Soil, sun, and water make it so.
Now let's talk about the big old band.
Big old band, man. The big old band has been a rotating cast of characters. It's a large family. At any given time, there will be 7 to 11 people up on that stage. So you know Cecil Yancey, who's of course been on this show. Nancy Apple been on this show. They're in the band. My buddy Brian Mulhern's playing guitar. Carlos Gonzalez, who was actually just up here canoeing out on the lakes around here with me. He's playing bass these days. He's played fiddle, mandolin. Alice Hazen has been playing fiddle at different points. Alice has got her own thing going now. It's a really hot band called Alice Hazen and Blaze. They're doing a lot. We got Willie Hall playing drums, and of course, Willie Hall was Isaac Hayes' drummer for many years and was in the Blues Brothers, and it's been great kind of having that senior kind of, you know, that voice of experience to kind of talk us through some stuff. One of my favorite Willie stories is one of the first times we rehearsed with him. We were getting ready for a show at Rail Garden, and it was right after Thanksgiving, and so we're working on this song, and Willie kind of stops and he says, "Man, we gotta do something about these dynamics. You can't just come out of the gate just banging on it." But the whole time he's telling us how we need to do this. He's maintaining the rhythm with the kick drum and the hi-hat, and he's also eating pecan pie out of a tin. And at some point I just stopped and I realized, like, one of the most legendary drummers in the world is scolding my dynamics while eating pecan pie out of a tin, and it was one of the coolest things that ever happened to me. It probably is the coolest thing that ever will happen to me. But no, we've had a lot of fun with Willie, and of course my son Vinny plays keys. That's been great. Jimmy Stevens Jr. was played bass on the record. So it's kind of a rotating cast of characters. If you know Memphis music, you know a lot of your best players are in multiple bands, and people have lives. So we've been able to do this thing. The songs are fairly simple. I've been blessed with just the best, most intuitive musicians. In fact, one of them described it to somebody as, well, it's basically 7 to 10 people following one man's stream of consciousness, and that's really how it is, because I do the bulk of my performing solo, so there's no band to answer to if I bring it around the horn a couple more times. So, and my band, like I said, has been just great. There's no greater harmony singer than Cecil Yancey. I'll say it right in Emmylou Harris's face. Sorry, Emmy, didn't mean nothing by it, but Cecil got you. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, and with this many people, obviously we can't just do it all the time. So it's pretty special when we get the band together.
I want to know more about the song "Wouldn't Change a Thing."
It's about my daughter Jessie, who you know. She's a grown woman in graduate school now. Or she was a good bit younger when I wrote the song, but I stand by it. She has a twin brother who's of course in the band, and Jessie and I are very similar in personality, which led to some friction, but also led to many adventures, some of them somewhat reckless, but we had a lot of fun, and we still have fun. In fact, we spent the morning canoeing the lakes here around the Hatchie Wildlife Reserve. So yeah, she has been a constant partner in crime for me, but you know, for a man to have a daughter, there's nothing like that particular relationship and that particular event for me in a man's life, to have a daughter and have that. I was just trying to put together what it felt like. So this wouldn't change a thing. I got a girl and her eyes are blue, drags around a teddy bear named Boo Boo. We brought her home, she would fit in the hat, had me digging in the garbage for a porcelain cat. Leads me around on a little string, I wouldn't change a thing, oh no, I wouldn't change a thing. She's pretty like her mama, but she's crazy like me. Runs around barefoot climbing trees, catch fireflies in a mason jar, fights with her friends like a sailor in a bar. Leads me around on a little string, I wouldn't change a thing, no, no, wouldn't change a thing. She sees magic in almost a woman, but she's still my little girl. She thinks that I'm made of money, she don't think my jokes are funny. She thinks I could wrestle a bear, she used to let me braid her hair. Leads me around on a little string, I wouldn't change a thing, no, no, wouldn't change a thing. Magic in the world. She's almost a woman, but she's daddy's little girl. She makes messes when she cooks, she don't care that her daddy's a crook. She got a smile that'll light a room up, I ain't ready for her to grow. Leads me around on a little string, but I wouldn't change a thing, no, wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change a thing.
Let's tell folks how they can find more of your music.
Yeah, it's out there. It's Tony Manard, TonyManard, Tony Manard Music on Facebook. It's just Tony Manard, all one word, on Instagram, and the albums are on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, Bandcamp. It's all under Tony Manard and the Big Old Band. Big Old, BIGOLE band. And I chose OLE because spell check never tried to correct it.
Thank you all for joining us again for Songwriter Spotlight. I hope that you've enjoyed Tony as much as I have. Please plan to join us again in 2 weeks when we will spotlight another area songwriter. Tony, thank you so much. Of course, always a pleasure to have you in Brownsville. So tell me about the song you're going to play us out on.
Well, I wrote this song just before the pandemic. It's called truant, which is the legal term for skipping school. I might have done a little bit of it back in the day. I'm not saying I recommend it, but of course, I guess when kids weren't going to school, it was kind of like, is there a point to this? People were skipping school every day. But it comes to find out they actually had to report in on the Zoom or whatnot. It wasn't hep to what was going on, thankfully. My children were out and on their own by the time Zoom school, so any of these parents, anybody that dealt with that, my heart so goes out to you. Don't know how you did it, but anyway, this is truant, and my wife and I have been dating since I was 15. So she was the person I skipped school a good bit with, and so this is kind of our song. It's called Truant. I learned a little more on the days I was skipping school. I wasn't a good student, but man, I really breaking the rules. I never had someone happy to sing until you came along. Hadn't thought about it in years, but now I gotta put it in a song. 'Cause we got days to come, sweeter than way back when. Doing what we was doing, we was being true. Was doing, but we was being truant back then. Got us lost on purpose, the day we wanted in the park. Did my best to keep you laughing and get you in my backseat after dark. Well, you tried to play it cool, but you was careless with your cards. I was putting in the work, but you wasn't trying to make it very hard. We got days to come, sweeter than way back when. Keep doing what we doing, we was being true back then.